Hey guys, what's up? I am back with another speed test. So in this video, we will doing the speed test comparison between the iPhone 14 Pro Max versus the iPhone 14. So iPhone 14 is powered by Apple A15 Bionic SoC with 4 GB of RAM, while the iPhone 14 Pro Max has the latest Apple A16 Bionic SoC with 6 GB of RAM. So on the back, we have a dual cameras on the iPhone 14 versus a triple cameras on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So iPhone 14 has a 12 megapixel f1.5 aperture with a sensor shift OIS main camera. Then we have 12 megapixel ultrawide, while on the another hand, iPhone 14 Pro Max has a new 48 megapixel f1.7 aperture with a sensor shift OIS main camera. Then we have a 12 megapixel ultrawide and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, which give you a 3x optical zoom with OIS. And the back on both phones is made up of glass. We have a dual ion glass, and the frame of the iPhone 14 is made up of aluminium, while iPhone 14 Pro Max has a stainless steel frame. So on the bottom, no headphone jack on both these two devices. Both phones has a stereo speaker. So I am really excited to see that how is the 14 Pro Max is going to stack up against the iPhone 14 with their last year A15 Bionic SoC. So very interesting to see which one is faster. So let's start off with the boot up test. So logo is came up at the same time on both phones. So we have iOS 16.3 on both phones. So the iPhone 14 is a tiny bit faster when it comes to booting up. We only have half a second difference between these two devices. And iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 6.7 inch over Full HD Plus Super Retina XDR with LTPO 120Hz refresh rate. Also we have 2000 nits of peak brightness on the 14 Pro Max, while the iPhone 14 has a 6.1 inch Full HD Plus Super Retina XDR OLED display with 60Hz refresh rate on 120Hz. Also we have a notch on the iPhone 14 versus a dynamic island on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So the display looks much better on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Also we have LTPO 120Hz refresh rate, which makes everything more smoother. Also with the dynamic island, we have some features like if you call something and you go like this, and the dynamic island, it is expand, as you can see. So that's really unique feature. So everything's closed up in the background, no application is running in the background. Also we have same Wi-Fi network on both phones. So now let's start off with the phone dialer. That is very similar. So now let's open settings. That is also very similar. So in the accessibility, in the motion, we have limit frame rate option on the 14 Pro Max, which you don't find on the iPhone 14. So now check out some more apps. Let's start off with the Amazon shopping with same Wi-Fi network. So the 14 Pro Max is a tiny bit faster, not a big difference. Scrolling feels more smoother on the iPhone 14 Pro Max because of their 120Hz refresh rate. So now let's open this. That is very similar. Again, scrolling feels really smooth on both phones because 120Hz is makes your experience to the next level. So now let's see some games application. Let's see Candy Crush Saga A16 versus A15. Exactly the same performance on both phones. So that's really interesting. So Instagram, that one faster on the 14. Let's pin out, and that is very similar on both phones. And now let's see Snapchat, little faster on the 14. I did not expect that. So Spotify, that is similar. Subway Surfer A16 and A15 is performed very similar. So 14 is a tiny bit faster, but I would say it is a draw on both phones. So let me show the speakers on both phones. First on the 14 with max volume. So here is the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Yes, on speakers it is more louder, has a lot more bass on the 14 Pro Max as compared to the iPhone 14 dual speakers. So let's see Temper 2. And Temper 2 faster on the 14 Pro Max. But you can see the performance on both phones is very similar. But 14 Pro Max this time is taking the lead. Now let's open this big game which is called as PUBG Mobile. Let's see in that game which one is faster. So the 14 Pro Max is a tiny bit faster. Also in that game we have smooth graphics with 90 FPS on the iPhone 14 Pro Max versus a smooth graphics with extreme frame rate on the iPhone 14. So the gaming experience, it is also much better on the iPhone 14. So now let's opening up the Twitter. That one, it is very similar. So now let's open Zedge. And 14 Pro Max is a tiny bit faster in that area, but not a big difference. So now let's see scrolling, and that is phase really smooth on both phones, but extra smoothness we have on the 14 Pro Max. So last I'm launching the cameras on both phones, default camera application. Let's see which one is faster. So both phones is open the camera at the same time. So now let's look at the front facing camera. Again, the camera performance, it is much better on the 14 Pro Max. So both phones has the same 12 megapixel f1.9 aperture with autofocus selfie camera, but the selfie camera, it is looks more better on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now let's see internet browsing speed. I am seeing the fast for internet browser on both phones. So Wikipedia, Xiaomi.com with same Wi-Fi network. So the 14 Pro Max is open the website faster, and scrolling feels really smooth. Same thing with zooming in and out. So next on the list is the Wikipedia.org. The Wikipedia, it is open up at the same time on both phones. Scrolling feels again really smooth, but extra smoothness again we have on the 14 Pro Max. So now let's open this English. That is similar. Scrolling feels really smooth, no jitters, anything like that. So now check out RAM management. So we have 4 GB of RAM with the iPhone 14 versus a 6 GB with the 14 Pro Max. Let's see who is performed good in the RAM management. So we have a lot of apps in the background. Phone dialer, settings, Amazon shopping. Let's see Candy Crush Saga, Instagram. Let's see Pinout, Snapchat, Spotify, Subway Surfer, Temper and 2. Let's see PUBG Mobile. You can see RAM management, it is really good and similar on both phones. So opening up the Twitter, same result. Zedge. And last, we're back to the internet browser. Again, no refresh. So guys, what I have to say regarding the apps opening speed, as you can see that the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 14, both phones is performing very similar in system-based application as well as in games mostly. But in games, sometimes the iPhone 14 Pro Max is taking the lead, but iPhone 14, it is not far behind. So in terms of the RAM device, in that area, and both phones is performing excellent in the RAM management. Not a single refresh on both phones. And the iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 4323 mAh battery size with a 20 watt fast charging support, no charger in the box, while the iPhone 14 has a 3200 mAh battery size almost with a 20 watt fast charging support, but again no charger in the box. So thank you so much for watching this speed test. I hope you like this video. So do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding between these devices, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. And I will see you in my next video. Peace out.